What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for May the 31st of 2019. I hope this episode does find you well, and if you are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast in which I lightly adjust the camera when we begin, and I fill you in on the hottest gaming news of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you were interested in staying up to date on the hottest info coming out of the industry. And let me tell you, it's been a hell of a week for video game news. Of course, we are ramping up to E3 2019, and since E3 has changed a good bit, it's not necessarily an entire week of chaos. It's an entire month, perhaps even 2 months, of leaks and anticipation and rumors and more leaks, and then the chaos actually hits, and then we all analyze it. That's pretty much the gist of E3. It can be a little bit stressful, but today we've got some very big news about this year's Call of Duty. Now, before you say, Sam, you do this every year. The industry does this every year. This Call of Duty is not going to be any different than the one that we've had in years past. And I say to you, hold the phone. There are a lot of changes that are worth talking about. We're talking crossplay between PC and consoles. We are talking no season pass. We are talking a brand new engine built from the ground up. This one is nothing to shake a stick at. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is going to be a pretty big hit with a lot of new content coming to the table. On top of that, Xbox Game Pass has been announced for PC. We've got more details as to what that subscription service is going to look like off of the Xbox One itself and on to a PC near you. Microsoft, speaking of which, is planning to show 14 first-party games at E3, which is a pretty solid number. There's going to be a new Beyond Good and Evil 2 livestream coming in June. This was a funny story. A lot of reports started to come out that Beyond Good and Evil 2 wasn't going to be making an appearance at E3. Don't worry, we're still going to be getting plenty of news, but it could be a release date? Maybe. But Apex Legends, the game that's sort of kind of dying a little bit, will keep players busy with daily and weekly challenges. BioWare has unveiled the Cataclysm event, and Anthem Xbox Games with Gold for June have been announced, and a little tidbit for you Nintendo Labo fans, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is now getting VR support via the 3.1 update, and we'll talk about exactly what you can do within the world of Super Smash Bros. In VR when we get to that story. But that pretty much is our lineup for the day, and I do hope you enjoy today's show, and of course, if you are brand new, welcome in. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. First off, Call of Duty Modern Warfare arrives October the 25th with cross-play support, plus there is no more season pass. The next Call of Duty game is called Modern Warfare. Yes, just like the 2007 game. Yes, it is kind of confusing. Now that's out of the way, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is scheduled to hit Xbox One, PS4, and PC on October the 25th, complete with cross-play capabilities. Plus, it won't have the series' traditional paid season pass for post-launch maps, gear, and events. Instead, developer Infinity Ward plans on shipping more free content than they have with past Call of Duty installments. It is likely that Modern Warfare will support crossplay, but the extent of the system is unclear. A representative for series publisher Activision couldn't clarify whether the new game will be playable between Xbox One and PS4 or just across consoles and PC. Here is the official statement. With the launch of Modern Warfare, the team is taking steps to unite the community. First, the team plans for Modern Warfare to be played together across PC and console through cross-play support. Modern Warfare features a robust single-player campaign, plus co-op and multiplayer components, with a narrative experience that spans all modes. The previous Call of Duty game, Black Ops 4 from Treyarch, did not have a traditional single-player option at all, instead supporting a handful of online multiplayer modes, including a Battle Royale option. Modern Warfare, meanwhile, is all about single-player, and Infinity Ward is pushing the series in a more realistic direction. Classic characters like Captain John Price return, but the storyline of previous Modern Warfare games has been scrapped. Instead, the game is packed with scenarios that feel ripped from today's headlines. Players experience contemporary battlefields through the eyes of a highly skilled Special Forces soldier, and also from the perspective of a freedom fighter from a war-torn country in the Middle East. Infinity Ward gave the guys at Engadget a sneak peek at the Modern Warfare campaign trailer earlier this month and walked away with one clear feeling: this game gets heavy. So, All of that to say, you aren't going to be getting the traditional action-packed experience, the high-octane, explosion-filled campaign like you might expect from a traditional Call of Duty game. Instead, you are going to be getting something much more deep, much more impactful, much more tear-jerking, hypothetically, than previous Call of Duty games. But before we move on, an additional story to buffer with this one, to merge with this one, if you will. Call of Duty Modern Warfare finally has a brand new engine with 4K and ray tracing technology. That, my friends, that picture, that's an in-game screenshot. The new engine will allow fans to play Modern Warfare in 4K with HDR and will utilize DirectX ray tracing on, but only on PC. A new GPU geometry pipeline allows for more detailed environments, rendering the game's locations with much more efficiency than before, and the new engine also allows for advanced photogrammetry, helping cut down the time it takes to create intricate textures. New spectral rendering means that both night vision and thermal imaging will be more realistic than ever before. Of course, traditionally, it's been pretty much a black on white kind of thing, or a white on black kind of thing, where you see through this thermal scope what appears to be pretty much an inverted color scheme. Doesn't look that great, but it was functional. With that being said, new world volumetric lighting allows Infinity Ward to show sunbeams shining through a window or beams of light shining through smoke. The new engine is yet to be officially named, but that information is likely to be revealed ahead of the game's release later this year. Call of Duty, of course, has utilized the same core engine modified from that which helped build Quake 3 Arena for nearly 14 years, although Treyarch has used its own take on the engine since 2012's Black Ops 2, but that is exclusive to Treyarch. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare release is scheduled for October the 25th, and there's plenty of coverage across both PC games and the rest of the industry. But I will also say, this new engine is going out to the rest of the studios. This is going to be pretty much the new foundation for Call of Duty going forward. Infinity Ward is sharing with whatever Call of Duty studio wants to actually use the product they have made. So now, we've got it all out on the table. We've got a single-player campaign. Also forgot to mention, no zombies coming with Modern Warfare. So that's good. That needs a bit of a break, in my opinion. So again, to take that one out, we have no single-player campaign. There is no season pass, which means you don't have to fork over an additional $50. Of course, there are probably going to be microtransactions, potentially even loot boxes. Again, not confirmed, but we can read into that. But again, no $50 season pass for DLC, free maps, unifies the community, etc. On top of that, we have the returning of a brand new engine, or the announcement of a brand new engine. This game is going to be the first Call of Duty in a very long time that actually foundationally changes things. And that's the point that I want to drive home here. There are a lot of good moves within Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think a reboot was kind of on everybody's mind whenever that news first came out, and they thought, hey, could you just be redoing the story and pretty much repackaging the same exact kind of scenario? Not the remaster, but kind of continuing where you left off. You could have, but the guys at Infinity Ward have pretty much torn it all down and kept the players in mind throughout the creation of this game to create a truly new experience for Call of Duty overall. And of course, with a name like Modern Warfare, I highly anticipate, I would almost guarantee, this game is going to sell many, many times better than Black Ops 4 ever did, just because of the good moves they are making. My favorite, of course, being the lack of a season pass. And I want to riff on that for a minute, because we all know what a season pass is. It's been fading over the course of the past couple of years. Of course, Battlefield 5, for instance, foregoing a season pass. And then you have these games as services beginning to pop up, like Fortnite, like Apex Legends, etc., where you might have some kind of battle pass for $10 every couple of months, whatever you might have, but no big season pass that excludes you from having access to the DLC, because that's problematic, especially in a games industry and in a games environment where the attention span of the audience is so shifting and so uncertain. So whenever you release a free update that costs nobody anything in addition to the $60 price of the game, you get people coming back. You say, hey, there's a free update. I'm going to go back and play Call of Duty again this weekend because I already have it. I don't have to pay for it. Let's just go ahead and try out this new map, this new gun, this new whatever you might have. There is a lot of value in maintaining a player base in today's day and age, especially if you do include some light microtransactions in the game. Now, that is the big question. Can Activision nail light microtransactions? And again, that's a topic for another day. I'm sure I will be reporting on that probably around, I would say September, just before the game comes out, when they announce what kind of microtransactions are going to be in the game. In a perfect world, there wouldn't be any, but we all know that's just, you don't fool yourself. So again, if you are going to be picking up Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you are going to be doing that on October the 25th, and it's coming out again on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. And I say again because we've had already one Modern Warfare Remastered launching on the consoles, but of course, very different game, very different scenario, and again, with a brand new engine. Very nice stuff. But with that being said, let's move on to the next topic of the day. Microsoft announces Xbox Game Pass for PC. Gears 5 and more are also headed to Steam, with other stores possible in the future. A big blog post put out about this that I think really does paint a very pretty picture going forward for those that are fans of Xbox and that play on PC. Xbox Game Pass is headed to PC with support from top publishers like Bethesda, Sega, Devolver, Paradox, and Deep Silver. As with the Xbox One version of Xbox Game Pass, the two are named the same but will remain separate. All Microsoft exclusives will launch day and date into the program on their global release. There will also be a library of 100 plus games to dip into. On Xbox One, this figure is now well over 200, but there is no word yet on pricing or specific games. However, Microsoft says it is working with 75 PC developers and publishers, including the big names as listed above. Again, Bethesda, Sega, Devolver, Paradox, Deep Silver, of course, their exclusive studios that they acquired, such as Obsidian, also getting on board with this. Finally, Xbox Game Pass will offer the same sort of discounts on purchasing games and content if you choose to do so via the Microsoft Store. You will get 20% off games and 10% off add-ons and DLC. Microsoft will reveal more in a couple of weeks at the E3 presser, which of course is going to be a very big one with new Xbox hardware getting announced. On top of that, new games getting announced. We'll dive into that in just a moment, but now more news about Xbox Game Pass on PC. Our intent is to make our Xbox Game Studios PC games available in multiple stores, including our own Microsoft Store on Windows at their launch, Phil Spencer said in a statement today. We believe you should have a choice in where you buy your PC games. Of course, this is all in response to speaking of the Microsoft Store, your favorite place to buy PC games, I'm sure. Said no one ever. There is good news there too. Microsoft is going to be making Xbox Game Studios exclusives available on other stores upon release. And of course, a Steam launch for Halo the Master Chief Collection was confirmed back in March when the game first was revealed, but 20 more will follow according to Microsoft, including Gears 5 and Age of Empires 1, 2, 3 definitive editions. What other digital shop fronts, such as Epic Games Store, what's going to happen with those? Says Phil, we also know there are other stores on PC, and we are working to enable more choice in which store you can find our Xbox Game Studio titles in the future. Microsoft has also said it will add full support to Win32 games on the Microsoft Store. When I think about the role we play as a company to continue to support and evolve gaming on Windows, it is critical that we make decisions that reinforce the open nature of the PC, Spencer concluded, focusing on how best to unite players on all devices around the games they love. We know the PC gamers want to see games, so I hope you'll join us at our annual Xbox E3 2019 briefing on Sunday, June the 9th to hear more, including the amazing lineup of new games and offers coming to PC players. And so, this is pretty much a giant news release that is in itself a tease for a bigger news release that's coming on Sunday, June the 9th with the Xbox E3 conference. And again, it's going to be a big one, make no mistake about it. So what do we have here with Xbox Game Pass on PC? This is the first step towards making it a viable subscription that people would want to play. And I think the big takeaway here is that Microsoft is moving in the right direction, and it's largely away from the Microsoft Store while also still supporting more features on the Microsoft Store. So for those that don't know, for instance, Gears is a fantastic Xbox-centric franchise that has come out on PC before, but it's been exclusive to the Microsoft Store on PC. You can't really buy Gears on Steam, and that's been a pain because the Microsoft Store, not the best store in the world, believe it or not. So now, quality of life improvements are coming. Games are going to be released on Xbox Game Pass and also on platforms like Steam day and date, instead of them being exclusive or even timed exclusive to the Microsoft Store or other services as well. So if you are a PC gamer and you are a fan of these Xbox franchises, these Xbox IP, this is the best news that you have gotten the entire month because you are getting a lot more freedom as to where you play your game and how you play your game. And of course, there's going to be much more info revealed at the Xbox presser this year in just a couple of weeks. But man, I cannot wait, especially with so many good partners that are getting into the game as well. It's going to be a very good time. However, at the Xbox conference, we now know a little bit about what we can expect because Microsoft plans to show 14 first-party games at E3 2019. Over the years, as Sony and Nintendo have de-emphasized E3 as a show, Microsoft has grown to try and fill that space. Last year's show was their biggest yet, and Microsoft, now the only first party with a stage show at E3, hopes to outdo it with their 2019 show. According to Xbox chief Phil Spencer, Microsoft will have 14 games to show off at their first-party studios at this year's conference. There is a number we already know about it. Gears 5 is an obvious example, as is Halo Infinite. It is also probably easy to assume that there is some kind of Forza content in the works, as there is every year. Microsoft has announced acquisitions of Ninja Theory, Obsidian, inXile, and Compulsion over the last year, and some of those studios could be ready to show something if they started work before the actual acquisition began. Rare has been pretty busy revamping Sea of Thieves, but it is also possible that they could be lending a helping hand on the announcement of Battletoads 2D. In the past, Microsoft has been criticized for all but abandoning first-party efforts outside of a few key franchises. After a slate of cancellations, the company is trying to find their footing with games they want to make and exclusives to drive players to Xbox and Windows. E3 might be the best time to make that argument, especially on the cusp of a new generation, which again is rumored to be getting an announcement at the show this year as well. And of course, again, the show taking place Sunday, June the 9th at 1 p.m. Pacific time if you did want to tune in. So overall, what can we get from this story? There are a lot of games that are in the works for Xbox as exclusives, or at least exclusives to PC and Xbox, because again, that play anywhere kind of thing is really being pushed heavily. So exciting times to be a fan of Xbox franchises, but I think the thing that I want to point out here is just how well Microsoft is doing with taking the fact that other companies are kind of stepping back from E3 and saying, hey, let's do the opposite of that, because what people don't understand is that although E3 might feel like it's beginning to be de-emphasized in a way, although it might be fading in a way, the overall gist of E3, the overall point of E3 has always been that it is the one time of year in which people outside of the gaming industry know that a ton of announcements are going to be going on. Press covers E3 because they know that's where the announcements are, and therefore people that might not be inundated with gaming, as you are, podcast listener who is a fan of gaming, they get to see what exactly is going to be coming from these big studios, and so the optics on that are phenomenal because it makes Xbox look like it's the only one doing anything. Of course, we all know PlayStation's still incredibly popular, PlayStation 4 killing Xbox One in terms of sales, but thinking forward to the next generation, Sony stepping back and PlayStation not having any kind of conference, probably a really good move for Xbox. So overall, if you want to break it down that way, it's going to be a very exciting E3. But when it comes to the 14 first-party games, I say anything is possible. Very excited to see what Obsidian has up their sleeve with some kind of new RPG. But could be an exciting year for that. And on top of that, we get a brand new Beyond Good and Evil 2 live stream coming later in June. Of course, as I said at the beginning of the show, the stories broke in a kind of funny way. We saw the announcement that there was not going to be any kind of Beyond Good and Evil 2 at the Uplay conference, or the Ubisoft conference rather. Instead, we later got the announcement that, hey, a giant live stream is coming. Ubisoft's Space Monkey program has shown off a bit of the highly anticipated Beyond Good and Evil 2, but the studio has been mostly quiet since December. Although Beyond Good and Evil 2 will not have a presence at E3, fans can tune in to the Space Monkey Report number 5 next week for new gameplay footage and more. On June 5th at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Space Monkey Report will be live streaming to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook with updates on the game's development. To stay up to date with Beyond Good and Evil 2, you can catch Space Monkey Report number 4 before the new live stream, and of course, anticipate that when it launches again. The live stream, not the game, on June 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So, we don't know what this is going to be, but again, more gameplay, potentially a release date, but I doubt it. And that's my anticipation, that's my guess, because it feels like this isn't the kind of event where you announce when the game itself is coming out. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is a massive game. It's one that is going to be making a lot of waves, mainly because of the name recognition. It's going to be a very different game in comparison to the Beyond Good and Evil that came out way back in the day, But with that being said, people are very excited about this. There's a lot of nostalgia-driven hype around Beyond Good and Evil 2. But overall, if you did want to know when it's coming out, that could be announced next week. But at least you'll get some more gameplay, some more developer interviews. You'll get to see a little bit more content about this game, so that could be a pretty good piece of info. Now, let's move on to talk about Apex Legends. It's a game that has had its ups, it's had its downs, mainly a sharp spike of ups and a sharp spike of downs. But now, Apex Legends will keep players busy with daily and weekly challenges. Season 2 will reduce the usual Battle Royale grind. Respawn has a straightforward way to keep its hordes of Apex Legends players coming back. It is borrowing a page from other BR shooters. The studio has teased Season 2 Battle Pass plans that will include daily and weekly challenges to speed up your progression. While there aren't specifics of what they will entail, Respawn is trying to avoid wacky challenges that force you to play in odd ways. And don't panic if you have to skip Apex while on vacation. You can finish earlier weekly challenges when you get back. The second season should also significantly reduce the overall grind to get to Battle Pass level 100, and you will find more legendary items throughout the reward path, enough crafting metal to make a legendary item, and new categories to replace badge and stat tracker rewards. There will be more carrots to keep you playing in essence. You will hear more about the new season at the EA Play event on June the 8th. In the meantime, there is a 2-week Legendary Hunt event starting June the 4th that will include an elite queue for top 5 players, unique rewards, bonus experience points, and skins available both in the store and through the Battle Pass. Respawn is going into the next phase of Apex having learned a lot from the first season because fan backlash and fan feedback was oh such plentiful. Let me tell you that right now. But this is a fantastic improvement over the original Battle Pass and for Apex Legends overall. And I think that's one thing I do want to say about Apex Legends is that the game itself is good. The gameplay is good. Of course, basically built on Titanfall 2 when it comes down to it, but the game design, the map design, the weapon balance, it's all really good. It's a fantastic foundation for a game, and now we need more content. And I know that we've been talking for the past couple of months about grind, and about crunch, and about these studios that work overtime and work, day in and day out to try and pump out new content to their fans, to their player bases, etc. And that's all really, really not volatile, but really, really hostile. It's a bad environment for the gaming industry to become accustomed to. We shouldn't expect new content to drop on a weekly or even a bi-weekly basis. But with that being said, it's been a couple of months now since Apex Legends launched. We're talking February, let's say March, I think it was February. Hold on, let's look it up. Apex Legends release date. So it came out February 4th of 2019. It is now almost June the 4th. We're 5 days away from June the 4th. So whenever you break that down, again, March, April, May, June, 4 months in, we need more content. I'm sorry. I understand avoiding crunch, but come on. This is getting to a point where we need more juice. And so, of course, with the E3 conference coming up, with EA Play beginning to get a little bit of hype generated, you are going to be getting announcements about Apex Legends. A huge portion of the show has been divided, specifically apart from the rest for Apex Legends. So hopefully, we will be getting a ton of info, maybe even a release date for Season 2, I would assume. Maybe even a day and date kind of thing where it's like there whenever it's announced. But if you were curious as to what was coming to Apex Legends, we at least know that there is going to be more of a reason to keep you playing when it comes down to it. Also, to everyone hanging out live in the chat, welcome on in. I'm glad to see you all here, and thank you for joining me on Caffeinate. Shameless plug since we're here. If you want to join me live on Caffeinate and you're listening to the podcast version of the show, then it's hosted live on Twitch 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Tune in. It's a good time. But BioWare finally unveils Anthem's much-touted 8-week Cataclysm event. It's about time. Despite being loudly trumpeted as the cornerstone of BioWare's post-launch content plans for Anthem, the long-awaited Cataclysm update has, to date, largely remained a mystery. With tonight's Cataclysm livestream over, however, a lot more is now known. According to BioWare, Cataclysm will run for a total of 8 weeks before it finally arrives after a bout of public testing. The first 2 weeks will take the form of a pre-event designed to set up the narrative for Cataclysm proper. This will consist of 3 new missions, each featuring their own high-quality cinematic scenes and a range of vanity item rewards. For those that don't mind very light spoilers, the gist of the story. Hold on, pause. If you don't mind spoilers, then you stay. this is the time when you pause and go get a drink and skip ahead, I would say, roughly 2 minutes until we're done talking about this. But again, there isn't enough story content in Anthem to really ruin anything for you. You've had time now, let's move on. Anyways, if you don't mind very light spoilers, the gist of the story is that a new faction led by someone called Vera manages to trigger the Cataclysm in an act of desperation. As you might imagine, it is up to the freelancers to find out what caused it and how it can be resolved. With the initial 2-week preamble over, BioWare will then launch the Cataclysm proper, with the bulk of the event unfolding in a new, non-linear area of the world, a storm-ravaged, cave-pocked cliffside overlooking a tumultuous ocean. What a relishing sentence. I wanted to go back and read that again. Non-linear area of the world, a storm-ravaged, cave-pocked cliffside overlooking a tumultuous ocean. You have to read it like it's some kind of fancy menu at an Olive Garden. That's my tier of fancy. Anyways, although Cataclysm is intended to be playable by anyone at any level, it is primarily designed for groups of 4 players, with a particular emphasis on replay. To that end, it features one core objective, to defeat the faction leader Vera, but encourages repeat visits, exploration, and experimentation through a new score multiplayer and leaderboard system, enabling players to compete against friends, guildmates, and the world. The idea is that defeating Vera is a relatively simple task, but will only net a low score. However, victory over Vera doubles a squad's point tally, so the challenge is to find as many ways as possible to boost those numbers prior to the fight. Time is limited though, so speed and efficiency are paramount in order to rack up the points and snag Vera's double bonus. While out in Cataclysm's perpetual storm, a stability gauge will slowly tick down and, once depleted, cause players to take on damage, eventually incapacitating them, limiting the amount of time available to complete the challenge. However, it is damaging, and effects can be offset by triggering timed safe zones ordinarily found around key locations known as arenas. And so again, we go on and on and on about this Cataclysm event. Of course, if you are still into Anthem, this is good news for you because, hey, it sounds like some pretty good content. I mean, when it comes down to it, I think about Anthem as a game built around this grind. It's a looter shooter at its core. And of course, streaming content is built around that kind of environment 9 times out of 10 in today's day and age. That's why Destiny continues to be successful, even though Destiny 2 is beginning to kind of trickle down and fade off a bit. So Anthem, if there is some kind of event that brings people back into the game, could potentially get a lot of good press from this because, again, it sounds like a pretty fun event, and again, it is lasting for a pretty long time. If you did want to dive in, give it a shot, and see if you can streamline the way to get the most points for your time. But of course, good to hear it's finally going to be coming out, and there should be some more Anthem content coming out over the course of the next couple of months, but it has no spot during the actual press conference this year at, of course, EA Play. I believe it is EA Play. So if you did want to dive in and see more of Anthem, don't tune in during E3. Oh no, you should probably just keep it tuned to the regular channels on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. that you might find some Anthem coverage because, hey, not looking so hot for that game. I won't even lie. However, if you don't like Anthem, you might like Xbox Live Games with Gold that, of course, have been announced for June of 2019. If you have Xbox Live Games with Gold, you get games with gold. Who would have thought with a name like that? This month's titles include NHL 19, Portal Still Alive, and more. Xbox games with gold for June have been announced for the Xbox One and the Xbox 360. Next month's update includes the Xbox 360 version of Portal Still Alive and Earth Defense Force 2017. Newer releases for Xbox One coming to the service are NHL 19 and Rivals of Either. On Xbox One, Xbox Live Gold members can download NHL 19 for the entire month, and of course, Rivals of Either will be available June 16th through July the 15th as well. For Xbox One and Xbox 360 users, Portal Still Alive will be available June the 1st through the 15th, and then replaced by Earth Defense Force 2017, June 26th through the 30th, and of course, last month's games are still up right now if you did want to dive in and check those out. But I always encourage people to at least add these to your library, give them the quick download, the quick look, see if it's something you might be interested in. The standout from this month's lineup is, of course, in my opinion, NHL 19, which is a really good-looking hockey game nonetheless, but some other good games worth mentioning as well. And I feel like everybody always pits PlayStation Plus against Xbox Live Gold. as they tend to, because they're pretty much the same kind of service. And so whenever you're thinking about that specific setup, yes, PlayStation Plus kills it this month. Of course, we talked about PlayStation Plus for June on yesterday's show, where you get Borderlands The Handsome Collection on top of Sonic Mania, two relatively new games that are like pretty big AAA titles. But of course, again, really good looking lineup for Xbox Live games with Gold in June. I believe this Rivals of Ether, I think that's what that's called, that game is really, really new. I just heard about that. As a matter of fact, this is the game. There is a brand new project being put out on Twitter called Pix Ale, and so it's a whole bunch of video game themed beers, but the brewer, the brewmaster, if you will, works directly with developers to create beers themed around games, and that was one of the games in the studios that he has partnered with already. Again, Pix Ale on Twitter. Highly recommend following them if you want to see beer and video game related content combined together. And then, of course, you've got Portal, which is pretty much a classic icon of the gaming industry at this point. If you don't have Portal on PC, you're missing out. It's just a genuinely cool-looking game, a cool idea, and one that really does mess with your mind. Have some Advil ready. And then, of course, Earth Defense Force, a very Japanesey action game, if you will. One that doesn't necessarily look that great, but man, it's a good time. It's a good time. So again, if you do want to pick up Xbox games with Gold, there are some out right now for May. And then, of course, the ones for June are going to be launching throughout the month, with NHL 19 available the entirety of the month itself. But with that being said, let's round out today's show with a really cool story, right? Nintendo adds a Labo VR view to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and now we know exactly what that means. It looks like you will soon be able to beat up your friends in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate from an entirely different perspective, and the hit Switch fighting game is getting a VR mode via the Nintendo Labo Toy-Con VR goggles. Pause. Who would have thought, whenever Nintendo announced a cardboard VR headset, that we would be playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in it? Because I certainly did not. Now it is official. A new video from Nintendo shows off the new VR mode that's launching today. It's out right now. In it, players can fight up to 3 AI opponents offline while viewing through the headset, sit back and watch AI battles, or just look around the game's 3D maps and do a bit of sightseeing. While dozens of stages are supported in the mode, it is not compatible for online play or local wireless matches, just stuff that is offline. A blog post also confirms that the version 3.1 software update adds a new Amiibo Journey mode and allows you to use Amiibo fighters in Battle Arena. A Twitter bot for SSBU patch notes, which has a track record of revealing them about 12 hours before Nintendo does, suggests the 3.1 update set to drop today will include the mode, but it's not quite clear exactly what VR options you will have. It follows updates that brought VR features to Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild last month, and after the SSBU patch arrives, it seems you will be able to send your Amiibo figure player fighters off on training journeys and into battle arenas. So if you do want to dive in and give it a shot, that update is out right now, I believe, according to this article, on the Nintendo Switch. Now, Decky in the chat says, I see dumb Smash-related injuries in hospitals worldwide. Oh, absolutely. My question is, if you can actually dive in and play, okay, if you can actually play with the VR headset on, if you have noticed, the Nintendo Labo here doesn't exactly lend itself to being gameplay compatible. So my question is, do you take the Joy-Con off the side of the Nintendo Switch and hold them in each hand? And if that is the case, how do you hold it to your face? How do you keep the VR headset on? Or do you look like an idiot and sit there with the Joy-Con still on the Nintendo Switch, holding it to your face? That's what they want you to do. I've just realized this. You're going to look like an idiot, but it's going to be a cool experience. So if you do want to dive in and at least give it a look, again, it's a free update, so you might as well see what the hullabaloo is all about if you do have the Labo VR kit. But again, very cool concept. You never would have thought that a genuine VR experience could come from something built of VR. And again, as Decky says in the chat, nailing it. This entire project, the updates for Breath of the Wild, all of this stuff, it's all just cool idiocy. Because it's essentially like something you would make out of a really, really high-end Happy Meal at McDonald's. But I digress. That rounds out today's top gaming news because This show is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and it is my job, my pleasure, my passion to fill you in on the hottest gaming news of the day. Now, of course, if you are brand new here, you can always subscribe on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia and get the show when it's put up in just a couple of minutes via your YouTube subscription feed, or follow on your favorite podcasting platform, including Spotify or Anchor.fm, amongst many others. But until tomorrow, you guys have a phenomenal rest of the day. I will talk to you soon, and as always, thank you for being here, for listening, and for being such a supportive group of people that love podcasts, because, man, I do love a good podcast. But you guys have a fantastic weekend as well, and peace.